Welcome back to the Sober Sofa. My name is Shanti Patty Owen. I am your host for this channel, where we discuss all topics related to addiction and sobriety. I was an 80s model, stay-at-home mom, was a legal secretary for 6 or 7 years, and for the last 8 years, I have been working in the addiction recovery field as a sober coach and a sober companion. And today's topic is the Scarlet Letter of Addiction. I was aware there might be some ramifications, but I didn't know the extent of the ramifications of going public with an addiction. I am a sex addict, love addict, an alcoholic, a compulsive gambler, and a debtor. Now, for those of you who are perhaps too young to know much about this novel, it was written by Nathaniel Hawthorne in 1850. It is about a woman, her name was Hester, who was an adulteress, and she was forced by the town to wear a red letter A on her dress, which said she was an adulteress. The reason I'm talking about this is because we who have addiction issues, which is also an A, right? We are often labeled in a very similar manner. Like there is a scarlet letter. It's like, oh my goodness, she has an addiction to X, Y, and Z. It's so interesting. I mean, because I have been working programs for my own personal addiction since 2012, I'm so used to hanging around with people in the addiction industry, people who have addictions, that I don't feel it that much. But I do remember when I decided to write my memoir about my sex and love addiction, which published in 2018, which is called Memoirs of a Legal Courtesan, a Sex and Love Addict's Journey to Sobriety. I was aware there might be some ramifications, but I didn't know the extent of the ramifications of going public with an addiction. When I discovered in 2012 that I had sex and love addiction, I went online to look for books from therapists, psychiatrists, anybody to help me with this addiction. And I discovered that most of the books, 95% of the books at that time in 2012, were written for men because it was considered a male addiction. Very similar to alcoholism back in the late 30s was considered an addiction for men. And as we all know now, it's not just men who have addiction to alcohol. I think I was so irate that there was nothing written for women that I had a long meditation and I heard a voice. God, the angels, who knows where it came from, told me to write the book, which made absolutely no sense because I literally had just started working programs for this addiction. But I thought, well, you know what? I want to help women like me who are in the dark, who just feel like we don't know what to do with this. And I thought I'd write it from the point of view of someone who just discovered this addiction. Now, it's not how the book played out, but that's how I started writing it. I would say after I was about 2/3 done with the memoir, I decided it's about time to go back to work. And nobody was returning my calls. All the staffing people, the headhunters, when they saw who I had worked with, said, oh, we're going to get you a job. Can you start tomorrow? But after weeks turned into months and heard nothing, I finally contacted one of them who told me that they couldn't get me a job with that out there. Now, my memoir hadn't been published. However, I had published several articles with the Feminine Collective. Shout out, because I just so love these women. They asked me for some excerpts before the book came out. And so that was on the internet. And that is why they couldn't get me a job. That is partly why, I would say not partly, that was mostly why I work in the addiction recovery field right now, because it just seemed like nobody would hire somebody with a letter A on my chest. Oh, she's an addict, she's an addict. So I want to talk about this, especially for those of you who feel this shame. I find it so interesting because if somebody says they have diabetes and they have to take regular insulin medication, I don't find that they get shamed for it. Nobody says, oh, well, you ate poorly. What do you expect? But addicts, that's what we often get. It's like, well, you brought it on yourself. You've got poor willpower, which most people now know it doesn't have much to do with willpower. It has to do with how our brain is set up, and it has a lot to do with early childhood traumas. If you are new in recovery, or perhaps you are very close with somebody who has an addiction issue, it's really such a loving thing to do, to be kind to your addict in your life because they are struggling, especially at the beginning. And if you yourself are new to recovery and you're struggling, do as much as you can to stick with people like me, and there's plenty of us out there, who have decades of recovery and addiction, because we can really help you see the positives of being an addict. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but like I probably never would have been able to write a memoir. It took me almost 4 years to write because my brain is an addict brain, and that's all I did for 4 years. I didn't go out, I didn't meet friends. You can ask them. I was just myopic. So that's how my brain works. When there's something that I like, that I'm passionate about, I want that dopamine hit. So when we're not sober, we look for that dopamine hit through drugs and alcohol, through gambling, through sex, through food, all kinds of things that will give us that temporary dopamine hit. I understand for people who think, oh, I don't want to hire somebody with an addiction. But if someone has been sober for quite a long time and they are working a program, they're actually amazing employees, because we are very dedicated. Just as we were dedicated to our addiction, we are very dedicated to our job. Oftentimes, employers who are quiet about their addiction history, they will often recognize that addicts can be fantastic employers and employees. So, like I said, when I decided to write my memoir, I knew there'd be some consequences, but I had no idea that it would affect my employment. It wouldn't have changed anything. I think I still would have written my memoir, but it really took me by surprise. When I couldn't get employment the way I usually did, it made me realize why there's a big A at the end of all the 12-step programs, anonymous, because there is such a stigma about addiction that people like to remain anonymous. But since I didn't remain anonymous, I just went into it full hog, wrote my memoir, have this YouTube channel about it, and I so hope that it helps people. And if you know somebody that could benefit from this video or any of my videos, please do forward it to them. I so appreciate that. I so appreciate you subscribing to my channel and thumbs up to my videos and hitting the bell notifications and coming back again and again. And if you would like to send me a private email, you can do so at sobersofa@gmail.com. sobersofa@gmail.com. I cannot wait to see you again soon back at the Sober Sofa.